What's going on? Welcome back to the Hog Style. This is Jamual down at training camp, Richmond, Virginia. Checking back in after second day of practice. So essentially, I told you guys when I when we released the Maurice Harris interview that my focus was going to be specifically on the one position group, the receivers. Yesterday was the defensive line in the front seven. So today was the receivers. And first thing first, to get the thing rolling. Obviously, at this point, you can check out our recent interviews. And if you missed Maurice Harris, he essentially talked about welcoming the competition and all about helping his teammates. It's not necessarily focus on himself and do his teammates dirty by not helping them out or anything like that. He's embracing the competition, he's welcoming it. It's a lot of good players at that position. Note it's like 9 receivers on the roster right now, the 90-man roster. So competition has been well, and today it showed itself again, and the receivers stood out. Yesterday, there was talk about how good Josh Doctson looked. I can't speak on it. Like I said, I've seen him, a couple times, but my focus wasn't on the receivers. But Josh Doctson was looking good yesterday. Today he was looking good again. Nothing, no spectacular catches. He made one good catch, falling to the ground. It was a tough catch. Caught it with one hand. Looked like he dropped it at first, but and John Kine would tell me that he dropped it, but I'm not buying it. I saw the one hand go under the ball before the ball hit the ground. So I'm sticking to a catch, and it ain't no refs to challenge me. Ain't nobody gonna tell me I'm wrong. It was a really tough catch, diving catch, one hand over the middle. So he's been looking good, and I put out a couple videos of Josh Doctson doing agility drills. He also had ran a nice clean route towards the end zone. It was a stutter and go. So Josh Doctson has been looking very, very well this camp. There's no injuries. If you ever thought there was, and I initially, before heading out to camp, I had my doubts, worried about if he can stay healthy. Doctson is just fine. Don't worry about Doctson. In terms of injuries or health, he's doing just fine, and he's making plays on the field. There's no signs of injuries. Now that we got that out the way, what's his name? Terrell Pryor. Excuse me, drew a blank for a minute. Terrell Pryor, I mentioned he's looking like a number one receiver. He's looking pretty good. He was looking good today. Him and Rashad Beelan had 3 big matchups and one-on-ones. He won 2. I really can't remember the third one because at that point I was tweeting, looked up. By the time I was able to get my video camera out or my video out, the play was damn near over. I really don't even remember who won that one. But Breland struggled against Pryor today in one-on-ones, and obviously, as we know, last year, a lot of people remember Norman getting beat badly. I'm gonna talk about Norman too, by the way. But a lot of people seen the videos of Norman getting torched last year, and Breland was essentially, he had his struggles against Pryor today. And I think it's a good matchup for Breland because the size is an issue. Size and speed with Pryor is an issue. It was one play, the very first matchup. It was an incomplete pass, but it wasn't a drop per se. It was just a bad throw. Underthrown. But Pryor gave a move to Breland. It's just a little fake, a little stutter, and he flew right past him on the sidelines. And Pryor's a 4.3 guy. So Breland played 10 yards off and still struggled to keep up with him. The only reason why I was incomplete, again, Breland had a play. He had a pass defense. But if it was a good throw, I want to say Cousins was throwing it, if not Colt McCoy, because Cousins was throwing on one side, so I really don't remember if Cousins threw to Terrell Pryor on this one. I don't think he did, but yeah, underthrown. But if it was a good throw, Breland probably would have still would have been 5 yards off Pryor. Pryor today, man, his speed, his explosiveness was on display, and his power. His the second rep with Breland against Breland, pretty much, and the route was not pretty at all. It wasn't a pretty route, but it was just a simple in route, about 7-10 yards, broke it in. But I would say, and I shouldn't say his power, but his size, but the ability to go up, snag the ball, and still come down with it and stay on his feet while Breland fell. Pryor kept his feet up, ran into the end zone. Just finished the play. It wasn't like a 10-yard touchdown, but he just finished the play. And that's one thing that you want to see from Pryor. And even outside the one-on-ones he did, in team scrimmages he did pretty well as well. Caught a dig over the middle, and pretty much right in the teeth of the defense, and turned the Jets on towards the sideline and broke it up field. And so yeah, he had a hell of a day today. I say he was definitely showing out today. So yeah, Breland and one-on-ones had his issues, and again, it's not fair to really judge that because it's not really going to have in 11-on-11s. He didn't really. It wasn't really like that at all. Him or Norman for that matter. So it wasn't really like he was struggling all day. No, the one-on-ones is difficult, tailored to the offense, but at the same time, you can definitely see Pryor, and you could definitely see Josh Doctson, what they're capable of doing. And then here we go to Jamison Crowder, who, for what I saw, he went 2 for 2 on Norman. I'd say both coverage, both plays by Norman was in good coverage, but catch was given up. Norman, he spoke today. Right before practice, he spoke today about the challenges between a bigger receiver and a shorter receiver, well, a small receiver. And obviously, we know Crowder's 5'8", 5'9", and you got to deal with their shiftiness and their crafty receivers, and that's one thing that you have to focus on. You really have to focus on your craft when you face a smaller receiver, and I'd say he was in good coverage, and we can't slack on Crowder because Crowder is a hell of a receiver, as well as Josh Norman being a hell of a corner, and them two going back and forth was actually interesting to watch. But what shocked me today was Matt Hazel. I had to ask somebody, man, who the hell is number 15? I don't want to make an assumption or make a bold statement, hot take saying that he's gonna make the roster, but he had a hell of a day today too. One-on-ones specifically, he beat Josh Norman pretty bad. Had Josh Norman looking silly, and that's something you don't say much about. A number one corner going up against a guy like you, first off, you haven't even heard of before, and he beat him for a touchdown, about 20-25 yards in the one-on-ones. So Matt Hazel, he made some pretty good catches today. He ran his routes well. Obviously, as I mentioned, he did good against Norman. He ran his routes well, and I don't have much to say about Hazel in terms of his background and what he was looking like years past. But today he stood out, and I guess that's a guy. The way I saw him today, that's a guy I would look at in preseason when the games start, when they strap the pads on, or shoot. Even before, like when they strap the pads on in a couple of days, maybe tomorrow, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Definitely a guy to look into. Um, so yeah, Norman had his struggles today in the 1-on-ones, but it wasn't the same thing when they went 11-on-11. Uh, I was very impressed by the receiving core today. And then Robert Davis. When you talk about Jamison Crowder, you mentioned you know that he's the guy, the shifty guy. First off, I didn't even mention the fact that in an 11-on-11 scrimmage, this man, Jesus, this man put on a move. I think Kendall Fuller, he put a move on Kendall Fuller where it was just simple. He faked to the out like he was running a flag, planted, took it up for a slant, broke the middle of the field wide open. There was nobody around him. If it was real time and game time, it's a touchdown. 50 yards, 60 yards, easy. But when you talk about Crowder, his shiftiness, his ability to get open in tight spaces, we talk about Pryor, who is the big body man who also has the speed. He's the one guy. He's the ultimate weapon, Pryor. And then we talk about Josh Doxson, who is like a highlight. Who's a highlight reel, really. Yesterday, I've been hearing he had a good practice, obviously, and he displayed a couple of his former self, his college self, yesterday. When we talk about Robert Davis, he had a couple good catches. First off, he had a highlight reel catch on the sidelines as well when he went up and got it against I can't remember the corner, but he has an ability to a leaping ability. He's 6'3", runs a 4.4. But it's the spectacular plays, the highlight reel plays, his explosiveness, but it's also his strength as well. He was at the line of scrimmage being pressed, and so I guess that's where the bench press come in handy, because he pushed his defender off of the line. You're good at within the 5 yards. Got off the jam with ease. Broke it in for a slant, money. So his strength is a good thing for him. But this is also in 1-on-ones. So his strength is a good thing for him, and that's something that you really want. That's what you're seeing. You're noticing the trend with the guys that we have here is strength. And that's always strength and size. Some of them got speed as well. Robert Davis and Terrell Pryor. Josh Doxson, for 6'2", he's like a 4.5. That's not bad, but it's not blazing speed. So yeah, these guys, Robert Davis, he put on. I wouldn't say he put on a show, but he had a good practice as well. Also a guy, who displayed the ability to make tough catches for his quarterback. The one issue I had with Davis today is that. And this is actually more so credit to the defense. And I wouldn't say it's an issue. It's something that he just has to work on. And which is what he did, actually, after... Well, I wouldn't say he worked on this specifically, but he stayed after with his receivers coach, I believe it was. Working after practice with Levern Jacobs. Just practicing, working on their craft. But he, in 11-on-11s, full team scrimmage... Davis got jammed by Quentin Dunbar. He struggled to get off the line. And, with experience, Quentin Dunbar has, become, one of the better press corners on the team. And he's been like that for a while. Obviously, that's the reason why they converted him to corner. So with Dunbar being able to jam him, it was pretty easy jam too, by the way. That's something that he's going to have to work on, because it was to the point where on this specific play, he got jammed out of the play. So, not like driven back jammed, but more so jammed at the line of scrimmage where, by the time Quentin Dunbar, got back to his drop, Robert, like the play was already in motion. Colt McCoy was looking at his going through his read. Sorry, so just something Robert Davis will have to look into, working on getting off the press. But more so credit to Quinn Dunbar, who's has a knack for these things, and clearly he's one of the better jammers on the team. So yeah, overall in terms of today, the receiving core is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good from top to bottom. Like I said, I mentioned Matt Hazel, Robert Davis, and then you got Terrell Pryor looking like a true number one receiver today. Obviously, we know what Jamison Crowder does, and Josh Doctson is looking like a guy who has no injuries, who has nothing holding him back. So when the pads come on, I'm assuming it's tomorrow. I'm not sure just yet. I haven't even asked. I'm assuming it's tomorrow though. But when the pads come on, these are definitely. I'm pretty sure you'll be hearing these guys' names. Josh Norman, again. Remember, Josh Norman and Bashad Breeland. I know a lot of people was getting on Breeland. Matter of fact, when I was posting these videos, but they were probably the same guys who were cutting Norman some slack last year. You gotta be balanced, people. We know damn well his one-on-ones. Obviously, Breeland looked some type of way. He didn't look comfortable playing off against Pryor. But at the same time, again, just in one-on-ones, they weren't looking too good. Just a bad day. People have their battles. They win. Some, they lose. So yeah, those are what the receivers were looking like. To sum it up, man, we're on 16 minutes. So sum it up, I think also I really like Jeremy Sprinkle, the rookie tight end. The dude is huge. And he can be a valuable weapon, man. He was practicing on special teams. I think a lot of people he can do a lot. And his hands are solid. The first 2 days, I haven't seen him drop anything. I think the only issue when it comes to Sprinkle, there aren't any reps out here. So he's had some push-offs that are questionable. That probably will be pass interference on the offense, but you can definitely see his size being a factor. He has the speed, and his size being a factor. He is really hard to defend him. And I've seen that it's hard for these guys to defend him. So I think Robert Davis. I say Robert Davis. I think Jeremy Sprinkle is the one guy. Maybe I think he may be that one guy that I've really because I've talked about him a lot. Wow. Yeah, I've talked about him a lot. So, I think Jeremy Sprinkle is that one guy that I've really been paying attention to the most so far this camp over these first 2 days. So, with that being said, I appreciate you all for listening. We will be back tomorrow. This has been fun. And, hopefully we get the opportunity to do this again. Obviously, we will be down here for a couple more days later in training camp, but tomorrow is the last day for us until I think next week or maybe the week after next. I'm not sure. Either way, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate y'all for listening to these interviews. I appreciate you guys, the comments, giving us feedback, interacting with us, interacting with me, helping this thing go way easier. It's been pretty easy, man. So, and you guys have helped out a lot. So, yeah, those are basically my general observations for day 2. I will be back again after the morning walkthrough on Saturday. So I will catch you guys tomorrow, man. Peace.